All right, let's talk a little bit about contrast. So in our base drawing and our gradual value change examples here, we have contrast. There's contrast from the shadow to the lightest value shown on the top plane here. The front plane is a lighter value. So we already have contrast built in. But I wanted to show you guys how we can use contrast to really really make something look shiny or have, you know, really high a high reflection. Okay, so if we're drawing something like glass or something with a really glossy finish, then we're going to want to use some really high high contrast. And I want you guys to imagine the material that we're going to be drawing here on these three cubes to be kind of like a stainless steel or something like that, or even like a chrome that would reflect a lot of light. And to do that, we're going to want high amounts of contrast. So what I'm going to do is just start again with a base coat of 10%. Okay, and I'll go ahead and just fill in the face of each of these cubes. And sometimes as you start to lay down layers of marker, and if you do it enough, your actual nib will start to dry a little bit. And if that starts to happen, you can just wait for it to kind of saturate again. Typically these markers can last years. But if you are doing really quick strokes, that nib can dry up. And if it becomes more and more dry, then the lines or the overlap between strokes can be a little bit more pronounced or exaggerated. But again, I kind of like, or I don't mind that. You can see in our gradual value example, because of the quickness of how we laid that down, that they kind of blended a little bit better. But I don't mind stuff like this, and especially if I'm trying to draw something with high contrast, I don't mind it at all. So after we've laid down a base coat in our contrast example, we want to let that dry completely, because we actually want to differentiate between our different strokes. So what I'm going to do is actually, and this can be random, but what we want to do is place down another coat of 10%, and instead of drawing another line that kind of overlaps, let's leave a little bit of a gap and draw another one. Maybe this time we'll overlap, leave a little bit of a space, and do another line. Okay, and you can already see how that is starting to appear as if it is reflecting some light. Okay, we can take this right now. I really like how this is looking. It has kind of a gentle glow to it. It is starting to fade a little bit as the marker starts to dry. So what we can do, and this is an opportunity to use maybe this end of the marker if you want for a little bit sharper line. We can go ahead and lay down some additional lines that are a little bit thinner. Or we can use, you know, the chiseled edge of the fat end of the marker as well. Okay, so you can see where it's not gradually blending. If there are hard edges or hard lines, you can get kind of a real feel, or it can really feel like it's reflecting reflecting light. Okay, and here we're just talking about 2 or 3 value difference. If we jumped up to like a 70% and really exaggerated the change in value, then it's just going to appear as if we're reflecting even more light. So let me show an example of that. So on our second cube here, I'll go ahead and do a second coat here in a few areas. Okay. But then what I'm going to do is actually grab my 30% as well, and actually I'm going to let this dry just a little bit longer. Let that dry for a minute, because the crisper the lines are, the actual more that it's going to appear as if it is reflecting light. So now I'm going to take my 30% and draw in a couple more areas here. Fill in, and now you can see that it does appear, you know, it does have kind of a stripy feel to it, but you can also kind of imagine that that light is reflecting off of this stainless steel surface like this. So this high contrast makes this feel like it's actually more highly reflective than this, or you know, a little bit more glossy or something like that. The other thing you can do is for the top is really kind of exaggerate and use your zero value or white, and let that really be the highlight. Okay. And then for this right one, we can start with 30. Or actually, we could just fill this in solid, because that is in shadow and it's not going to have light reflecting off of it. Okay. And then again, we can come in and fill in the actual shadow. But you can hopefully see how that contrast really makes us feel like it's highly reflective. Another thing you can do is, once you've laid down the marker, if you take a black color pencil and a white color pencil and a straight edge, you can actually, with a nice crisp line, like a white line, you can come in and really draw clean up some of these edges a little bit, so you get a really nice crisp edge for the areas that are reflecting the light. That doesn't show up real great in this camera view, but you can actually, using like a black along with the white, you can really pick up some really super high contrast and make these things appear really, really glossy. And you can see here with this, actually, you can see where the edges of the different values are bleeding a little bit into each other with a straight edge. So you can see how this isn't a nice crisp line. With a straight edge, we can come back and kind of reinforce that edge or that line and clean that up a little bit with colored pencil. Okay. Then it really feels like, this almost feels like it's like concave almost, or it's a kind of a round portion that's sticking out, and the highlight is right here, right? That's where the light's reflecting off of that. But yeah, with white colored pencil and black colored pencil can be your best friend. You can really reinforce highlights really nicely with white colored pencil on top of the marker. Okay, got a few more to go here, but let me pause here and I'll get into some more applications of color.